press 5. To block this call, you may begin speaking now.
Boss, how we doing?
Good. What's going on with you? How are the conditions? How you feeling?
I'm feeling awful. I got a lot of bad pains inside, which is like when I was getting diagnosed a couple years ago. They won't do anything to me at all here. I'm now officially 90 days past my release date. Everybody's slow playing the paperwork to have me released in Minnesota. I've got my Leering Center T-shirt ready to go, and I think they spotted it in my property. So
All right. So
they're
look, we'll do a quick interview then right now. I'll do an article on you. I got the
all
room to
right.
do it. So okay, I'm on the
I
phone.
also
I got
wanted
this.
to go ahead.
I got this. I got it. I got a recording so I can transcribe it later. So we got fit about 15 minutes. This is Phil Kenner. He's a resident committed to the custody of the United States Attorney General in the Federal Bureau of Prisons. And you're located in the Miami facility at this point, Phil?
That is correct.
Okay. And how long have you been at the Miami facility?
Been here since April of 2025.
Okay. And you've been seeking to get compassionate release or CARES Act type home confinement because of some serious medical conditions, and you had it already before. Let's talk first about why you need the to be on the street for your medical conditions, and the number one, and number two, why it was revoked previously, and what the delays are. So go ahead. First
So,
thing is what's going on with your medical.
so currently my medical conditions, which are in dire conditions and untreated by the Bureau of Prisons, originally there was a 4.5 year delay in a very serious late stage diagnostics. They had released me in June of 2023 for about 7 months to get serious treatment that the BOP had refused to administer after I was diagnosed through their malpractice and delay. And I was unfortunately remanded by a circumstance that neither the BOP or supervision in probation violated me for, but then the BOP refused to release me under their own policy statements. I've had to file cases in the Southern District of Florida courts who have refused to even review the case, and are forcing me to an appellate court at this point. And in the Eastern District of New York, I had a compassionate release that was denied and is sitting on a reconsideration motion, considering the original judge on the case refused to dispose of any of the issues that were argued inside the motion.
So at
So
the end of the day, the Bureau of Prisons wants to see you die, or at least they don't want to see you get the treatment that would be life-saving treatment for you. Talk to us about the treatment that you were getting on the street when you were first on CARES Act release.
So originally I was dealing with Western medicine, chemotherapy and radiation, and ended up going through 2 rounds of chemotherapy, 1 round of radiation, but was working through advanced right to try drugs on the street that are all homeopathic, but ended up being extremely responsive. And
This is the same right to try act that Trump put into law, correct?
it's under that same premise that President Trump had put into effect, allowing people to not just lose their lives because of FDA regulations, but allow people to put themselves at risk, fully knowing. So
But you're saying that you don't have a right to try in the Federal Bureau of Prisons.
I don't have access to even the oncologist scripts while I'm here. The BOP refuses to give me even the simple over-the-counter medicine, let alone the scripts that the cancer oncologists had prescribed for me, both
So
while I was in Colorado and.
is it fair to say that some of Trump's signature healthcare advances and legislation are being ignored by the Federal Bureau of Prisons?
Absolutely. The president has given people all the tools and the toolbox to take care of people like me and give us a chance to live and prolong our lives, while the long-standing bureaucracy inside, I think, is playing the long game and attempting not just playing cat and mouse with people's lives like mine, but are just long playing, assuming that eventually President Trump's MAGA movement will fall out of favor, and at that point, the bureaucracy can take over again and restart right where they were under some of the prior administrations.
Okay, so talk about now the predicament you're in. You were released onto the street. You were in Colorado, and then you were reincarcerated. How long ago were you reincarcerated?
I was remanded, reincarcerated on February 1st, and somebody at the Bureau
of last year, right, of 2025?
Of 2025, correct. And under
This call is from a federal prison.
under the Bureau of Prisons' own program statements and policies, I should have been re-released to the street within a week or two based on the fact there was no violation of my terms of supervision. But the Bureau of Prisons immediately initiated a U.S. Marshal hold on me while I was bonding out of county jail on a case that was ultimately dismissed and then sealed for non-conviction because of the nonsense of the original erroneous filing. So ultimately, the BOP brought me back in, refused to follow their own policies, and even the courts in the Southern District of Florida have refused to force the BOP to follow their own policies, which would immediately have released me 23 months ago, back in February of 2025, and I would have been able to restart my responsive drug treatments and protocols on the street.
Okay, so you've been delayed. Tell me how your health has changed since last February.
So I continue to deteriorate on a daily basis, and since my remand, I should have been removed from the detention center in Colorado immediately within weeks and reassigned to a medical center in the Bureau of Prisons, of which I believe there's 12 of them, that would have been able to house me as a Care Level 3 or Care Level 4 facility. But the warden in Inglewood, Colorado, refused to sign my transfer paperwork, and he detained me for 62 weeks in a detention center when I should have been there no more than a few weeks, even if the BOP had decided not to follow their own policy statements. But he had an unchecked decision to hold me and subject me to a horrible life-altering surgery if I wanted to have any treatment whatsoever with the BOP. That wouldn't have had to happen if the BOP would have followed any number of their policies, one being a compassionate release under a terminal status. Second, if they had just followed the President Trump's First Step Act and given me credits according to the congressional law and not an invalid proven policy. And then lastly, had the BOP just administered the remand issue properly.
Okay, so I want to go into the crime that you were convicted of, because that's relevant to the treatment now, in the sense that, are you someone who is a mass murderer? Are you someone that committed crimes of violence? Are you someone that maimed and hurt people? Are you somebody that went in the streets, rioted and looted and killed? What was the crime that you were accused of? Was it a crime of violence?
Not at all. None of the aforementioned crimes were even involved with my proceeding. Mine was a supposed money laundering case where all of the money had been traced by the government to the actual sources where it was supposed to be after a 10-week trial. That was more of a kangaroo court than anything else.
Well, let's get into that. So there's a pedophile named Ken Jowdy, but he has some very powerful friends and a powerful attorney by the name of Louis Freeh. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And who is Louis Freeh?
Louis Freeh was the former FBI director under Bill Clinton.
And that guy was on the Epstein Island plane, correct?
He was, from all indication, he was on the Epstein Island call logs or flight logs and record books.
And he also was a major donor to the Grandchildren's Trust for Joe Biden. Is that correct?
He was. Congress had identified him as a over six-figure donor to each of the Biden grandchildren, except for the seventh grandchild that Hunter Biden fathered.
So Louis Freeh is a Democrat Party hack who either defends pedophiles or maybe one himself because of his presence on Epstein Island. And still, you have Ken Jowdy who sought the protection of the pedophile defender Democrat Party, and you're the one that got railroaded in your case. Does that sum it up?
A fairly effective summation, as I had whistleblown on their tens of millions of dollars of fraud between both Jowdy, Freeh's protection, Lehman Brothers, pre-collapse efforts,
And this
Danske
this was
Bank
a
in Europe.
development this was a development deal down in Mexico and in other places related to Major League Baseball and NHL hockey stars. You were a hockey player, a pretty decent hockey player from what we hear back in the day, and you went into finance and financial architecture. Tell us, who the players involved were with the MLB, with NHL, and those types of people.
So players involved with Ken Jowdy in particular were some of the same characters that were involved in Senator Mitchell's drug scandal, including Brian McNamee, Roger Clemens, Andy Pettit, etc. And then as far as investors went, direct investors of record that were involved on my end of the deal were former NHL players like Michael Pekka, Brian Berard, Owen Nolan, and about another dozen players, all of which were defrauded ultimately, as the bank records have.
This call is from a federal prison.
And the government, the U.S. Attorney's Office, proved out by forensic counting after my trial to show that Ken Jowdy and the Louis Freeh protected entities all received the money that the government alleged for 10 weeks of trial disappeared, and nobody knew where they were.
Okay, and so where is Mr. Jowdy today? Do you have any idea?
I certainly do. In fact, Jowdy today is the sole owner of the resort in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, and after both Lehman Brothers had helped siphon off tens of millions of dollars, and Danske Bank in Europe under Louis Freeh's guidance had siphoned off hundreds of millions of dollars, the court, in a bit of a rope-a-dope, created a false illusion that they were forcing Danske Bank to get rid of their debt position in the project, and they ultimately were allowed to force a theoretical force of the sale of the debt back to a third party who, in the most insane of ironies, was the original lender from Lehman Brothers, who had been siphoning money off with Ken Jowdy under the Louis Freeh protection scheme.
Okay, so is
for
it fair
years
to
and
say,
years.
based on that Louis Freeh protection scheme today, Ken Jowdy is left in Mexico to be a predator upon small Mexican boys, while you're left in a Federal Bureau of Prisons facility, left to die? Is that a fair assessment?
I would say so, based on the people that have spoken to me with knowledge of the current situation down there. Yes.
Okay. So we got about a minute or two left. So tell us, give us your summation here as to what you want to see done. What kind of relief do you want with respect to the Bureau of Prisons and your health conditions?
At this point, there's several things. I think this is one of those circumstances where President Trump has gotten involved with cases like mine, where there's been an over-incarceration or a mal-incarceration to cover up other deep state frauds that have occurred over the years. This one now is stretching into north of 2 decades. The Bureau of Prisons should have had me released on a compassionate release as an advocate several years ago after their 4.5-year delayed diagnostics. That never occurred. They refused to follow their own duties, and the BOP right now has every availability to move me out and release me now that I'm past several of my different release dates. This is a circumstance that President Trump's office needs to hear, and with all the information still surrounding the original fraud by Jowdy and Freeh and their cabal, there's still prosecutable crimes into the hundreds of millions of dollars.
You're saying it's an ongoing conspiracy, what Ken Jowdy has been doing.
Absolutely, and something that the U.S. Attorney's Office under Pam Bondi and FBI under Kash Patel should be looking into with all the information I still have.
Okay, great. So, we're going to be cut off in a couple of seconds, but is there anything else you want to say with respect to the situation?
Yeah, at this point,